Thank you for joining the Strategic Growth Experts podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Taracco. I've got a guest today, Tim Matthews from The Powerful Man. Tim Matthews is on a journey helping men connect to living a powerful life. Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit. So what is it that you do, and what, when you say helping men connect to a powerful life, what does that really mean to you?
Nice, great question. So what it means to us is we typically work with guys, men, who know they're capable of creating a huge impact in the world. And in some respects, they already are. So some of the high-level guys I work with, they already have very legacy-driven businesses. But the thing is, they're just so disconnected from themselves, from their life. They've got layers of stories, attachments, scripts that are running that really are not them, and they're just moving them away from who they are at a core level. So what we help the guys to do is reconnect with themselves so they can live a powerful life. And right now, our entire focus is on the mission that we're doing, whereby we're supporting 1 million men and finding their freedom so they can impact the world in the way they know they're capable of doing. And what the angle that we take in doing so is, in my opinion, the secret to your business is not always in your business. It lies outside of your business, how you're showing up in your relationships, how you are with yourself, how you are with your health. All of those things, when they're totally in sync, allow you to tap into that genius that's within every one of us and allow us to really show up being it every day. And from that space, we get to create our greatest impact. It becomes a lot more effortless than it is when we're trying to think from our heads the entire time.
Wow. Yeah. So, and I hear that a lot. A lot of people are unfocused, or they've got stories and attachments. What kind of results have you created, or what have you seen with people when you start kind of clearing away those stories and attachments? What kind of results have you created with people?
So we'll take one of our most recent events we did in the French Alps. So we led a very small group of men into the French Alps over 6 days. There were 6 men as well. And the whole purpose of that, the question I kept asking these guys, Brendan, was, who are you? Who are you in your relationships? Who are you in your business? Who are you with your money, with your health? Are you showing up fully being all that you know you're capable of being? What does that look like? Who are you? And for a lot, I'll be honest, going into that, I thought one of the most powerful things we were gonna do over that experience was to help them tap into who they are in their business. So who they are when they're showing up, serving on purpose and in alignment and all those things. And one of the exercises we got them to do was to really embody it on the edge of a mountain, declare it to the world, and all these amazing power activation exercises. But where I'm going with this is the most profound insight that came to these men when we were doing this was how they were in their relationships and who they were when they were showing up, being fully vulnerable, being fully open, fully giving and receiving love to all those people around them they so dearly cared about. But what actually happened was we found out that a lot of them were holding on to certain beliefs and shame and guilt, a lot of them, in their intimate relationships. One guy was holding on to it towards his dad. This guy is so amazing. He started in business when he was 11 years old. And he started in business because his family had invested a lot of money into MLM. And it wasn't working, and he was sick of living a certain way, so he started his own business at 11. Phenomenal stuff he was doing. And when these guys were able to become aware of this is the first step, and then release it, so one of the things we got them to do was ask those people closest to them, those people who they felt the biggest resistance towards, what is it like to be in a relationship with me? And so this guy in particular, the one who started his business at 11 years old, to him it was towards his dad, because there was a great big cloud hanging over the relationship, which meant that when he was showing up in his business, his driver was money, generating $100K a month and all those external things. And when he became aware of it and was able to release it, his business went from, he was doing 6 figures, but he was pretty inconsistent with his money, and he was struggling to really get traction. Since becoming aware of it and clearing it in the French Alps, It's now been 4 weeks since the French Alps. His business has trebled over the past 4 weeks. He's been getting over a client per day into his business. He's booked his first speaking event, because that was one of the big things, is that he wanted to book a speaking event, but he was saying, oh, well, when I've generated 7 figures, I'll be able to do it. All these things that just pointed towards him requiring external for comfort, and that came from the unconscious belief of him wanting to make his dad proud. And then another guy, he had lots of vulnerabilities that he wasn't sharing with his partner, with his stepson, with his mother, with his sister. He was able to clear those, and now his business has also started to skyrocket. So what we typically see is that guys come to us wanting to really impact the world in a way they know they're capable of doing. But to do that, what we help them to look at is their whole life and how they're showing up, and the unconscious commitments to having other areas of their life, and how they're bringing them to their business. Because, you know, when you're absolutely on fire in your relationship, showing up with an absolute openness and vulnerability and love and passion and everything, when you take that energy into your business, the decisions you feel capable of making, the actions that you do take, everything is so much more magnified, and those kind of results have been typical for a lot of our guys doubling and trebling their businesses, their impact, and more importantly, their freedom for themselves, location, time, family, money, everything.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I think, you know, ultimately that's where you can make the biggest difference with people in how they show up in their life, because, you know, that's where we're reflecting our outer world. That, you know, it all comes from internally, and a lot of people, I think there's a lot of resistance to working with coaches and mentors, and, you know, there's so many experts have cropped up over the years that I think sometimes there's a lot of resistance, but it always seems to undermine the value. There's so much value in doing the work that I feel like that's the most intricate form of personal development work anybody can do.
Yeah, well, you're totally right. One thing I always say to our guys is, your way is the way. So I never tell our guys what the way is. I never tell them what their way is, because I believe that you already know your way. You just blocking yourself from seeing it and being it. So it's always that case of being able to have somebody act as that mirror, because we can't see our own blind spots. We just can't see our own blind spots. And like you say, having somebody act as a mirror, be that reflection to point back all that we are doing in other areas, so we can just be at peace, like be going into that business with total peace, flow, balance, ease, joy, excitement, abundance, versus needing, desiring, wanting, scarcity. Is it going to work? Can we do this? Fear. All these are the things that come from a lack of alignment.
Wow. Yeah, and you know, I think that's a form of thinking culturally that's embedded in human beings, and so it's really profound. You know, what you're telling me, the results that you've created, you know, just by working with people on these deeper levels and kind of dehabitualizing the fear and the failure.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's also when you actually are able to tap into and realize your truth and your purpose, and you know your self-worth and value, and really fucking embody that, there really is nothing to fear, because often what people fear is not the actual event going wrong, but what the perception of that event going wrong will say about them, or how they will be perceived by other people. So it's almost like the fear of rejection, the need to be approved. All those things, when you actually bring light to where that has come from, what has happened in their lifetime, what even they've maybe inherited from their family, from their father, from their parents, things that they didn't deal with in their lifetime. Once you become aware of that and you make peace with it and you clear it, you know what really is it to fear? When you're showing up with a real sense of knowing, like especially us guys in the Western world, right? We really do not have many threats on our life. It's not like we're living in a poverty-stricken country where there's no water and we struggle for food. And, you know, it's not like it was 200 years ago, 300 years ago, when we had a real kind of fear of death. You know, all our comforts have been taken care of in this day and age. yet we've transcended those fears and just put them onto other things, onto new meanings that are all very superficial, that once we're able to recognize that and detach from that and give ourselves permission to know and be our own worth and value, there really is nothing to fear.
Wow. Yeah. That's some. I mean, you're bringing some really profound insight. What has the response been with the people that you've worked with? What kind of response do you get from them, and how do they show up in your retreats?
Yeah, great question. So typically when we start working with guys, the space that they're in is that they're typically in their head. So they've had some success, or some of the high-level guys I work with are very successful financially, but either way, across the board, they're typically all in their head. They think a lot. They think about this. They think about the actions are made from their head, decisions are made from their head, rather. So one of the first things to get them to start doing is really getting out of their head and recognizing that there's two versions of themselves. They've got them in their absolute truth, their power and their purpose. They've got them in the shadow. And the truth is, the shadow was never them. The shadow was formed out of a mechanism to keep them safe. Let's say, for example, so when I was young, I believed that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worthy because of an event that happened with my dad. And so what then happened is, throughout my life, I let my shadow control me and keep me safe because it believed that me putting myself out there was going to have me experience those same feelings I experienced when I was younger, and that was going to be too painful. So the point at which we start to become aware of this shadow is when we awaken to the fact that there's more out there for us. And this could be more health, more happiness, more sex, more freedom, whatever. We become aware that there's another way to what we've been experiencing and doing so far. And that's when you really get to start to become aware of who you are and your truth and your power and your purpose. And that comes from being in your body. That comes from your heart, your soul. That's a feeling that you just cannot describe. It's an awareness that you have and the feeling and the aligned actions that you take from it. But when you get to that space, you have awareness of your shadow and your power. It then becomes a choice to take off the mask. And with a lot of our guys, with everybody, I believe there's an absolute fucking well of infinite potential, power, possibility inside of us that all just naturally wants to rise up and thrive and spill out everywhere into the world. But our mind blocks it. That's the shadow. So what we do with our guys is effectively show them how to lose their mind so they can reconnect to themselves and reconnect to a powerful life. And how it's received by them is received very well. First, it's interesting to have them start switching on to the fact that all that they thought was them actually isn't them. And also actually make peace with that and recognize how it served them a lot their entire life. And then it's really enlightening to have them actually become aware of and embody all that is them in the truth and the power and purpose. And it's very liberating. And this is what I mean, whereby we're saying we're supporting 1 million men in finding their freedom. We help the men to flow. So we assist the men in having them to find the freedom from themselves, first and foremost. Because true freedom comes from freedom of self, and all the other freedoms follow on from that. Freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of love, location, everything.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that's kind of a central focus around a lot of conversations I have with people who are really doing effective work. It's like all these walls that we build up against, what we're out to create. All these habits and things from the past that are still controlling people's behavior. These are fundamentally. I mean, I think what you're hitting on here is so fundamental in any form of achievement. It sounds like this is the type of work that I think everybody in the world should be doing, because there's things from your past and how you've been are always building up between who you truly are. There's always some sort of wall between who somebody truly is, and I love where you're coming from. Like, you're truly committed to helping people break that down and become 100% authentic and in their power, in who they are.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying. You're totally right. And the thing with men as well, what we often do is we beat ourselves up. So we think, okay, well, why didn't I know this sooner? And we beat ourselves up for feeling not good enough. And we beat ourselves up for all these different beliefs and things that we've taken on. We then often go about beating ourselves up. And that's because of the definition of what being a man is to most of us. And, you know, most of us, what being a man is it eludes us because of either inherited it from our fathers, and bless our fathers, but what serves them is not typically going to serve us in this lifetime. Unless your father was, say you're out there wanting to create a legacy and you want to go and create amazing things with space exploration, for example, unless your father created amazing things in space exploration, it's more than likely that the definitions he's handed on to you just do not serve us in this day and age. Our fathers grew up in a very industrial age, an industrial time. Their mantra was very much work hard, persevere, be a man, man up, don't cry, don't be a girl. All these things that were all based around the externals of what it meant to be a man. For me, I believed for a long time that emotion was weak. I witnessed that love was something whereby a man controlled the love. A woman had to do things to be worthy of receiving the love. I believed all sorts of things about what it meant to be a man. And as we move forward, as we allow ourselves to really let go of all the beliefs and all the shadow personas that are not ours, we really get to embrace what being a man really means to you, to I, to the next man. What it really means to be a man who's vulnerable, who's emotionally attached to himself first and foremost, who's connected to himself and to his feelings, because there's no way you can create in your power, from your heart, from your genius, without being connected into your feelings, without being connected into your body. And for us, for men, for a long time, we've been taught that feelings, emotions are bad, or weakness. And we've got one of our coaching programs that are running right now, one of our group programs. One of the guys in there, he used to be the mayor. He lives in New York. He used to be the mayor of one of the towns, and he's done lots of amazing things in his life. But this now, when he's in our group coaching program, he's in there because he really wants to find his purpose and deliver it to the world. And what we discovered quite early on was that any time he was good at something when he was younger, his mum and dad used to pull him away from it. And when he was saying this to us, he was really angry. So I said to him, I was like, you seem like you've got a lot of anger towards this. And he's like, I have. It pisses me off. I'm like, cool. So have you ever expressed this anger? And he's like, well, no. Because again, for men, we've been taught that expressing anger is something it's bad, it's scary for the people, all these things. So what I've got this guy to do, well, what we got this guy to do is we set a baseball bat, he used the golf club, go upstairs onto his bed, make sure there's a lot of room, and just start slowly hitting the bed and putting himself in the space whereby his back there when he was younger, getting pulled away from doing all what he loved, and speak what comes to mind and let your body express it as well. And he had an amazing release of anger by letting himself really fucking express all that he'd always wanted to express but never did, because he got told that emotion is bad, anger is bad, emotion is weak, all these things. They were really at a pivotal point, in my opinion, whereby every one of us as men is redefining what being a man means to us, because the old definitions no longer serve us. And where we're going, we get to do something different rather than be something more.
Wow. I mean, that's really profound. What does it open up? I mean, what does that do for people? What does that make possible for their lives once they start facing these facing these emotions and facing these things?
Well, this is the thing, and how the analogy I always use is often the men that we work with, whether they're the high level guys, the guys in our coaching programs, they come to us with their glass full. And if you imagine if you have a glass full of water, and it could be full, that water's there been a while, it's getting stagnant, doesn't taste very good, and you want to pour some fresh, clear, mountain spring water into it. Even if you pour that water in, it's all that's going to happen is it's going to overflow, and you're going to lose all that fresh water, and you're still going to keep the stagnant, dull, lifeless water. And that's what we often try and do. We try and fill our glass with more learnings, with more tools, with more this, with more that. But if you just allowed yourself to empty the glass to start with, when you then fill it with that spring water, you're left with a glass full of absolute purity, refreshing, clean water that just tastes so good. So when our guys are able to become aware of these things that are holding them back and release them, that's the space they enter into, this clearing of their container, this emptying of their container. Once they empty their container of all that isn't them, it makes space for all that is them to rise and thrive and serve out this purpose in the world, in their relationships, in their health, everything.
Yeah. It makes me, you reminded me, it made me think of, there's a famous interview with Bruce Lee where he says, empty your mind, be like water, be shapeless and formless like water. You know, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into the ocean, it becomes the ocean. He's saying you can be shapeless and formless like water. I thought that was an interesting parallel that you brought that up, because that's absolutely. I mean, we're so busy filling ourselves up with ideas and information and things, and that's why I talk a lot about meditation and clearing and doing clearing exercises, because you know you're so on point. Most people don't have a point of reference for implementing things, you know, for implementing tools like that in their daily life and really actually letting go of, you know, these things that are holding them back. A lot of them are conceptually intangible. A lot of them are just like emotions or ideas or things that, you know, people don't know how, you know, they don't have a point of reference for dealing with. So I think I like what you're telling me that you do. Your work is very impactful for people who don't have that.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. Like, go with the flow of life. And this is, like you're saying there about Bruce Lee as well, and filling ourselves up on all that isn't us. When we work with the guys, often for some guys, we put them on a learning path. So we don't have them learn anything. However, until we feel like it's the right time for them to start integrating certain things. Because learning new things simply causes their mind to continue to be busy. And we want their mind to be peaceful and still, and their heart to be busy. We want them to be in their body. So we do some really simple exercises to help them reconnect with themselves first and foremost. And that's when you can really start to flow like water. Like, you can't flow like water or be like water if you're fearing what it looks like to be the ocean, or you're fearing what it looks like to be the glass. Because then when you are the glass, you're thinking about all that isn't being the glass. So you're never fully serving in the role of being the glass. But like you say, it's all from first being able to identify what those beliefs and stories are, become aware of them, remove them, release them, make peace with them. Like, one of the most powerful exercises I did. So when I was younger, I formed the belief that I wasn't good enough, and that came from an experience that I chose to perceive a certain way with my dad. And in short, that was that when I was younger, about 7 years old, I only really used to get to see my dad on a weekend. And we'd go up to the local field, we'd play football, and this one week I was playing in a primary school match, and I scored 4 goals, and I was like, fuck yes, I can't wait to get home, and I'm going to tell him, he's going to be so proud. So I run home, wait for him to get in. He gets in from work, goes upstairs, gets a shower, comes down, grabs a beer, sits in his chair like all dads do, all dads have a chair, and puts the TV on. I got to stand in front of him to tell him about these 4 goals I've scored. Really, I was quite nervous because it was quite big for me to do this. So I didn't really feel like I had a voice much when I was younger. I was very much a household of, you will fear your dad, you will do all those kind of things. So now I went to tell him, and I didn't even get through the first goal, and he was just kind of pushing me out of the way. Well, not pushing me, but like making that signal with his hand for me to move. And I can remember just thinking, wow, like, what do I have to do to be seen, to be heard, to be felt? Like, I just didn't feel good enough. And my sister, who was 7 years older than me, she then went travelling a couple of years later, and I thought it was because of me, because I wasn't good enough. I got girlfriends, I cheated on them because I wanted to be a Jack the Lad, and I put myself worth on being able to pull girls. I took too many drugs. I almost died by taking too many drugs because I was a people pleaser. I wanted to fit in. All these things. And one of the most powerful exercises I ever did was asking my dad if he was proud of me. And I can remember when someone gave me the opportunity to do this and recommended I do it, and I was like, whoa, God, I knew what was going to happen. Like, my mind was flipping out, but at a soul level, I just knew that it had to be done. And he said, I'll give you 7 days to do this. And I'm like, easy, 7 days. Got to day 7, and I've still not done it. Oh, shit. Got to day 8, and I was like, oh, God, I've got to do this today. This is getting ridiculous. I'm banging into my mind. So I went round to my parents. My dad was cooking, nobody else was in, which was great. And the kitchen backs out onto the patio. So I was walking outside, pacing around outside, kept going to the door to say to my dad, Dad, are you proud of me? And every time I went to say it, I just couldn't speak. And I've never been in that position where I've not been able to speak, ever. And I just couldn't speak. And in the end, I got it out and muttered, Dad, are you proud of me? He's like, what? I'm like, are you proud of me? He's like, why are you asking that? Like, it's important for you to answer this for me, please. Are you proud of me? He's like, of course I am. Why are you asking? Like, because you've never told me. And he just said, I then went on to tell him about what happened when I was 7 years old and playing football and the beliefs that I formed and how that shaped my life. And my dad never even remembered that day when I came in from football and went to tell him about the goals. But you can see what we choose to take on, and you can see what we choose to believe. And as men, it's really important for us to be able to not only be aware of it, but release it and make peace with it and make peace with the people that were involved and really forgive and let go of it all. Otherwise, you still carry those energies and emotions with you.
Yeah. And you know what's so incredible, too, is most people have many of these, many stories like this. They create a story about their friends. They create a story about their parents. They create a story about their siblings and their, there's like multiple layers and so many instances of that. Like, you're just giving one example. I'm sure you had many as well to work through. And these are things that most people go through life avoiding. And, and that's exactly what it creates. It creates that stagnation, or creates the frustration of habits and ideas that were formed so early on that were never dealt with. And, I think that's where neurolinguistic programming comes in, and other methodologies. And everything that you're speaking about is very valid, because, it's like, there's, like you said, there's so much learning going on that I think that, in the present times that we're in, I think the most valuable form of learning is unlearning, thought patterns and previous behaviors and things that, are really holding people back from stepping into their destiny. That's what I think is so powerful. And I love that you're framing, what you're doing in this way, because that's exactly, I think, what the world needs.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you think about it, like, if you unlearned all that isn't you and allowed yourself to really stand in the power of all that is you, then the business strategy often just falls into place, because there's 1,000 different strategies out there, 1,000 different sales scripts, 1,000 different ways to market. And it's always the man behind the strategy that is greater than any strategy. But when you're fully owning yourself and you're fully knowing and being with confidence and love and conviction every day, then your ability to have that conversation with that one person who you feel can really support you in as an element of your business strategy, you have it. When you really want to feel like you want to take action on a certain decision that's really going to move your business forward powerfully, you have the wherewithal to be in tune with that decision and act on it. It really is about you being able to clear your container so you can just be powerful in your business. Like, if you think of any sports performers, they have everybody else around them doing everything as well. Even the top business people, top legacy leaders in the world, top thought leaders. they have all these, they're able to just sit in that space of really being tapped into themselves and acting. Whereas for a lot of us, there's a lag time. We'll be tapped into ourselves to some degree. We'll have some inspiration, a great idea to do something, but then the lag time may be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, whereby we're thinking, we're rationalising, we're procrastinating. And the intensity at which we take the action 7 days later is far less than the person who has the idea and boom, acts, boom, acts, boom, acts. And that's what Richard Branson was so well known for. So well known for being able to just act on impulse, obviously in a strategic manner as well, but act on impulse and get shit done. And that's what I see when I work with a lot of the high-level guys and when I'm surrounded by a lot of high-level people. That's one of the qualities I see them possess. They're tapped into themselves, they're connected to themselves, and they can act on it very, very, very quickly.
That's amazing. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, what is it, removing the hindrances on the actions that you need to take to live the life that you say you're out to create.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And it can be easy, it can be hard. The choice is yours. You can really make it simple for yourself, or you can really choose to make it hard for yourself. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it is so, so powerful. Just that notion of there's always a choice. You're always choosing. Every single day is Tuesday. You're always choosing. It's just a case of what are you choosing.
Wow. And that's incredible. Because even what we create subconsciously, we're sabotaging ourselves subconsciously by subconsciously choosing things that we don't want. And even if it's a subtle subconscious, I don't deserve it, is stopping you from choosing success in a certain area. And that's where your results become incredibly powerful.
Exactly, 100%. Like it's just a compound effect as well. Doing a little bit every day. Like a lot of people will paralyze themselves by thinking about step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When really all that gets to happen is to think about step 1, maybe step 2 as well. Yeah, have an idea of the grander picture, but like Bruce Lee said, be able to flow like water. Trust yourself enough to be able to know that you're following your feeling, you're on point with your feeling, and you're letting life lead you one step at a time, rather than trying to think about step 10. Because even when you do let life lead you one step at a time, and you step based on just the next step, by the time you get to step 5, if you would have wanted to plan out step 1 to 10, by the time you get to step 5, step 10 is more than likely going to be different anyway. Because you've taken so much action in the first 5 steps, you've achieved so much because you're acting so aligned in your relationships, in your health, your business, your money, every area, that, things could have exploded by the time you get to step 5 if you choose to let it be that way, rather than trying to control everything. We often like to control everything. We tend to be quite control freaks. We like to control everything around us because, again, we've been taught that everything must be controlled, and to lose control, often we're taught that a loss of control is a bad thing. It's a reckless person. It's not something we want to be. Yet, do you think Tesla had control when he was coming up with all his inventions, or Einstein, or Branson? All they had control of is their own self-worth and knowing that they could handle what was going on, following it one step at a time. That's what they had control over. They weren't controlled to it having to follow a certain path or to look a certain way. They allowed it to flow, like Bruce Lee said, like water.
Yeah, and who was it that said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step?
Exactly.
I think that was Lao Tzu, potentially. That's exactly right. Tim, I really appreciate you taking the time today and having this conversation and getting this message out to our listeners. Is there anything you want to share with them? How to get in contact with you, website or anything like that?
Yeah, cool. So our website is being redeveloped at the minute. So what I'd love to do actually, Brendan, is we recorded a training quite a few months ago for our guys, but we've been getting a lot of awesome feedback and awesome breakthroughs from it. So I'd really love to gift your listeners with that. There's no opt-in for it. It's not one of those things. It's just, here's a training, you can watch it. So I'll give you the link to that. I really feel like it's gonna share a lot of value with your audience as to what stories are telling themselves and how to detach from them and how to embody all that is them. Obviously, we've got our Powerful Mind coaching programs and the retreats we're doing. The next one's in the Himalayas in March, and the work I do with our high-level clients. But I'd really love to serve your audience with something tangible that they can actually learn from. So yeah, the webinar is my gift to you, to your audience, and they can devour it as much and as often as they want.
Excellent. That's fantastic.
And if they do want to connect with me personally, of course, there's Facebook, but you'll be able to get in touch with me anyway once you have access to the training. And that'll all be quite straightforward.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead and post that to Strategic Growth Experts. We'll post that on the post, Strategic Growth Experts. I'll do a link, powerfulman.strategicgrowthexperts.com, and it'll take you to the podcast episode, and we'll put a link to the webinar where everybody can access it.
Perfect. And the webinar's pitch free as well, just FYI. It's not like you're going to go in there and get pitched a product. It's not like that. It's not really my bag to do all that kind of stuff, to be honest. But yeah, devour it. I encourage you. I recommend it. And then it'll serve you powerfully.
Excellent. Well, Tim, thanks so much for joining me today. And I'm sure our audience is grateful for having this conversation as well.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I think there was a little bit of a delay then, Brendan. I was just saying, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and you've made it an awesome show. You've asked some great questions, and you've really brought out the best in me, so thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Tim, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Perfect. Thank you.